Blog Talk Radio.
Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, across this great country. Yours truly, Mark Mancini, producing this awesome show. It's the American Sports History Podcast, hosted by my good friend Peter Ray, 347-205-9631 for the call-in number. Know a lot of people are driving out there. If you want to listen to the show after, blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports. Without further ado, let me give him the podium, the mic, the red carpet. Peter, first of all, how are you? Second of all, how can people get a hold of you? Third of all, you brought Miami, Florida into the mix tonight.
Hi, Mark. I'm doing well. Everything's fine. I have a YouTube channel. It's my name, Peter J. Ray, and I have a website. It's called Adventures in History with Peter J. Ray. We've made 673 history videos, including 171 Cleveland baseball videos. Every year, Cleveland baseball, going back to 1871, 1871. Sorry about that. Anyway, tonight we have it's a real honor and a privilege. We have a tremendous guest tonight. His name is Coach Bobby Hallback, M.S. He's a mental health therapist and sports psychology consultant. Welcome to the show, Coach Hallback.
Yes, sir. So, appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. Look forward to what I'm answering.
Yeah, it looks like we're breaking up here a little bit, but we'll do our best. Yeah, it's such an important topic, mental health and, the power of the mind and people, I don't think we really know. We're only learning now how important the mind is, of course. There have been so many talented people who have sort of fallen by the wayside because of depression or problems with mental health issues. And now Coach Hallback deals with anxiety, depression, trauma, and substance abuse. And some of the language of his literature, he talks about decreasing psychological distresses in order to reach an optimal mindset to produce optimal performances. So, Coach Hallback, would you like to talk about your work? Yeah, we're having trouble. I think having trouble breaking. We'll try again here. So anyway, some more things. He's based out of Miami Beach, Florida. He meets with people in person and online. With on the computer, and he works with athletes and coaches. Of course, coaches are extremely important. They really need to know more about this so they can. There tends to be a very negative approach to. Guys traditionally yelling at athletes and so forth. There's so much pressure on the athlete, because there's, let's face it, in all sports there's failure. Every game a team loses. Every time there's a batter, there's a guy, either the pitcher wins or the hitter wins. So there's failure. Half the time there's failure, and so how do you help guys deal with that? And it's such an important field, and so I take my hat off to Coach Hallback for the tremendous work he's been doing. Now, Coach Hallback, are you there? Can you hear me? Apparently not. So anyway, we'll keep talking here about his work. Coach Hallback, Coach Bobby Hallback, he's a tremendous high school basketball and football player, and he played some college football as well before he had to stop due to injury problems. Then he got in this field. He got a master's degree. He's worked in working with the general public, and now he's getting involved with athletes and in all fields, in all sports, hockey, baseball, football, basketball, and again working with athletes as well as parents. That parents are obviously very involved in this, so they need to know more. Coaches and administrators. So, Coach Hallback, can you hear me? Oh, he dropped for a minute. Anyway, he'll be back, and we had a wonderful talk this afternoon, and again, I take my hat off because, like I always like to say, we all want to be winners in life, But, which is fine, and we should all strive to achieve. But I think the greatest person is the guy who helps losers become winners. And the thing is, well, in reality, nobody is a loser because we're all created by God. But let's face it, a lot of people develop alcoholism or depression, and they might be extremely talented, and they fall by the wayside. And, of course, when it comes to sports, we all know how important how tough it is on athletes with the pressure that they face. So it certainly is a very noble mission and very important work, and certainly very useful in helping as he indicates in his literature, Coach Hallback's literature, to improve athletic performance, team culture, overall health, and safety of athletes. So, Coach Hallback, are you with us?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry about that. Lost reception, but I'm back. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, that's fine. Yeah, I was just talking about this wonderful work that you've been doing in the field of as a mental health therapist and sports psychology consultant. And I also saw in your information about yourself that you had a minor league basketball tryouts. That's pretty cool.
Yes. Back in the days of just playing basketball, football through high school, grade school, I fell in love with both sports. After I finished up high school and finished up trying out for the minor league basketball, I got more into coaching because I just loved the game. And at the time that I was bouncing around trying to solidify a position, it just came to a point where I just realized, I was tired of chasing the dreams, and I said, let me go back to be able to give something that I value more, and that was more of coaching and also learning about the psychological aspect that comes into being a competitor. So I felt like I could give a lot of more focus and attention towards helping inspiring athletes from amateur, collegiate, and professional, and that's why I kind of devoted my energy and time to allow myself to know and digest like what it takes to be a competitive, and the experience that I was able to relate to my experience of coaching and being able to share with clients that I work with now, like it's all about the mindset and it's about how you approach the game, no matter what sport it may be.
Now, I was reading your literature. There's this statement here. You work to decrease psychological distresses in order to reach an optimal mindset to produce optimal performances for athletes. So how do you decrease psychological distresses?
So my approach is I do assessment, screeners, where, I kind of find out where the players are. I gotta get to know the players first. For me to get to know the players first, I do questionnaires or screeners or assessment in terms of giving questions, 30 to 60 questions, just so I can know the raw information coming from the client. So what that does for me is eliminate the process of guessing, eliminate the time being wasted. So I approach the mind of where I need to meet the players at, and by me doing the screeners and assessments, that helps me avoid those hiccups, getting the raw information. And once I get the raw information, I go into like that mode about intervention and prevention. Intervention is trying to catch them where they are, and then prevention is trying to cut it off before it gets too further, as in working with players that's already playing and then trying to figure out what players are before they started playing or getting too serious into the game. So what I do, I assess where they are, anxiety, depression, mood swings, and then once I get a better understanding of who they are, and that allows me to formulate a treatment plan in terms of like sessions where I can meet with the players and bring that attention, bring that awareness to them. Because a lot of times players don't know where they may be having a deficit or mental block, roadblocks. So I focus on troubleshooting in terms of providing that one-on-one sessions, getting to know the players mentally, so I can be able to devise a plan that's going to benefit them as an athlete.
I believe you mentioned in your literature visualization. I was just imagining that you talked with like a baseball player. You help them imagine that having success as a hitter.
Yes. Like as in like visualizing, the time that you get to the plate. Okay, you got time to think about those moments leading up to delivering the ball or hitting the ball. So you visualize, the success as in terms of visualizing yourself hitting a home run or hitting a single or hitting a double or hitting a triple. You know, you got to visualize what aspect that you want to deliver prior to leading up to going to the plate to deliver a hit.
Well, I imagine that you deal with a lot of the issue of fear in athletes. You want to talk about the problem of fear with athletes and how you help them with it?
Well, like in all actuality, like, you know, fear is where you don't know. That's an unknown factor. And then fear of making a mistake or fear of not making the proper judgment, you know, when it comes to competing. So I validate the fear of the client. I validate that, you know, you don't know what's going to happen. So that fear leads up into the moment of putting in execution. So the fear is going to be there. So I don't avoid the thought of having that fear. I validate the player's fear to help them deal with the fear, but also let them know that mistakes going to happen, but it's the opportunity to execute, knowing that it's a possibility it can be a good turnout or it can be a bad turnout, but having the fear to hold back and not try, you know, so I try to get them to understand that it's okay to feel that fear, it's okay to have that anxiety. It's just knowing that opportunity is going to come either way it goes. So I practice on, like, visualization to decrease fear, positive talk, self-talk, in regards of just understanding that you're not always going to be perfect, or you're not always going to make the best shot. You're not always going to have the perfect delivery, you know, in terms of that. So what I teach the clients is that fear is inevitable, so it's unavoidable. So fear is going to be there. So I practice on, you know, deep breathing techniques, counting down to 10, deep breathing exercises, you know, inhaling, exhaling, to kind of give them that relaxation, you know. But just being honest and upfront, the most important thing is to validate that fear and talk to them and give them positive thoughts in the midst of having these moments of feeling fearful.
You know, I read I think it was Billy Beane, who's the general manager of the Oakland A's, and he played Major League Baseball, and he was a high draft pick. I think he played with the Mets with Lenny Dykstra, and then Beane said, you know, he would go up the plate and strike out, and he'd come back and he'd break the bat and yell and curse and everything, and you know, have a fit, lose his temper. And then Dykstra would go up and strike out, and he'd come back, and you know, he'd go, wow, this is some game, and Beane was seeing the difference between how how do you help guys deal with their anger?
You know, as in terms of the anger comes from letdown, the anger comes from disappointment. The anger can come from a carryover from the night before. So what I do, I help the players identify what leads to anger. So once I help the players identify what leads to anger, and then we can game plan, we can strategize what we need to do in terms of avoiding that anger or being able to accept that anger, turning that negative energy into positive energy. You know, like striking out. You know, you may strike out on the first round. And then what you're going to do differently, and being able to assess what you did wrong the first time to avoid making that strike out the second time. So what provokes you to get angry? What you didn't like about the first time at bat, and then you got struck out. So how can you go back and visualize? Once again, we're talking about visualizing, also help with the anger, how to assess the anger, what got you upset and what got you into that anger mode. So it's like almost being provoked, and what led to that moment of anger. So I always try to focus on where they are and trying to get them to move to the next phase based on their anger. But the most important thing is identifying that anger and where it came from.
You know, back in 1995, Cleveland got to the World Series, and one of our star players was Albert Bell. But he had a real anger problem. And I don't think, you know, if we had a guy like you in '95, we would have won the series, because I don't think he really was able to deal with it, and it just sort of poisoned the whole clubhouse. You know, him losing his temper all the time.
Right.
So I commend you for your efforts.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, that's highly important. You know, just knowing where the root cause come from, you know, which, like I say, with anger Anger just don't show up. Anger just don't show up. It's a reason why you're angry. It's a reason why you're upset. It's a reason why you wasn't able to execute the way you wanted to. And as a competitor, you have external stressors along with internal stressors. So that's also a situation that can bring anger into the mix. But as in the scenario that you just described, like, you're mad and upset and you're angry because you striked out. So what can you do differently the next time around? It's positive thoughts, positive affirmation. Say, I got this. I'm going to do it this time around. I'm not going to let myself be defeated. So, anger is part of being defeated. So how you're not going to be defeated is how you handle and you deal with the anger at the same time.
I've thought about the issue of trauma. You hear of guys, especially war veterans, guys who have been to war and have had these traumatic experiences when they may have killed someone or they've seen people killed, and then they have this memory, this horrible memory that keeps coming back. They keep remembering, and that this trauma, and they can't. It's such a strong memory and a very negative one, and it's sort of. And how do you help people? I mean, I imagine part of your work. We all have trauma, things we've been through, and these painful memories. And so, how do you and those and that can really affect our lives. Whatever trauma it is, and especially the really bad. So how do you How do you get? I imagine you have guys you don't know what they've been through, what trauma they've experienced, because a lot of times people they hide it even from themselves, and so I imagine your work would involve getting guys to talk about it. But how would you help them to get their mind off these traumatic experiences, which might be really disturbing them in the here and now?
The first and foremost thing that I aim for and I focus on is establishing a rapport, building a therapeutic allowance, building a therapeutic relationship that allows trust to be built. Because without trust and also building that therapeutic allowance, you will never get to know any client or clients on any level that you may have been involved with. So you got to be able to help the clients become more comfortable and willing to share. So in terms of that, I'm speaking in terms of in the beginning phase, but as in like they open up and share, then I go into psychodynamics, which we talk about the past and the present, how we connect the difference, connect the dots. And once you connect the dots, then you're able to bring in exposure, like investigating, exploring, probing the history, which is like the biopsychosocial history of that individual. Like talk about your history based on current and past behaviors or current and past experiences that was traumatizing, that was traumatic, because every scale is different. But I focus on getting to know the client first before I can really get divulged and opening up where the client may be. But based on the surface, they can open up and share certain things that allow me to probe. So it's all about getting to know the client first, and then I work on exposure therapy, reliving the moment. And reliving the moment is allowing them the opportunity to rehash what they experienced and be able to talk about it, process it. And because now we're talking about bringing on closure, bringing on healing, so it's more like exposure therapy to help the clients go more into what led to their traumatic event.
So does it involve just being able to talk to someone and share about the trauma? Is that itself something that would help them to get over the trauma?
Yes, psychotherapy. Psychotherapy is where you have a one-on-one session. It's the client and the therapist, and you let the client lead the session. It's called client-centered therapy, where you let the client lead the session based on sharing whatever experience that comes to mind, whatever experience they can recall that was traumatic. So I let the client lead the session, because once they lead the session, I'm giving them the opportunity to talk about whatever they want to talk about instead of being guided from the therapist. So I focus on client-centered therapy to where they want to talk about whatever event may happen, allow me the opportunity to be more of a reflective and an active listener, because being more of a reflector and an active listener allow you the opportunity to find out what's really going on with that client.
How can people find you?
I'm on Instagram, Bobby Hallback, and then I'm on LinkedIn, also by my first name, Bobby Hallback, and then I'm also on Facebook, Bobby Hallback, and you can reach me also at my email, bobbyhallback@gmail.com, or you can call me directly at 561-248-3614.
Now, you mentioned in the information you sent me about honesty. Are you trying to help guys to be honest with themselves about their lives?
Honesty is a big factor. Without honesty, you can't get nowhere. It's dead at the door until they open up. You know, like a dormant. You're asleep until you want to be woken, or you tap into something that never been tapped in a while, so you actually waking it up. So yeah, the more honesty you have, the better off it's going to be beneficial to you as the client, and also beneficial to the therapist. Because now we have something that we can work on, and that's the most important thing: being able to be honest and being able to open up. Because if you don't open up, how can we fix a problem? Or how can we address a problem? How can we solve a problem? You know, because the more you keep it in, you're not hurting nobody but yourself.
You know, when I was 11 years old, my older sister died, and I don't think my parents really healed. And you know, my father, I remember years later, I was curious about my sister. I thought, I wanted to learn about her, and I would talk to her. And my father would not talk about my sister. He could not do it. And, he would walk away, so I imagine, when you're dealing with people with this pain, these wounds that they've had, trauma, it's so painful. They don't want to talk about it. They don't. And so how do you get them to do this? It's kind of like when you vomit. And of course, after you vomit, you feel better, but before it's like you feel terrible. You feel really bad. You don't want to do it, right? Because it's terrible to vomit. So how do you help people face their trauma because they've just gone through life in a strategy of ignoring it as it sort of eats away at them? How do you help them to face the traumas that they've experienced?
Showing compassion, showing empathy, and being transparent. Just being honest with them, like asking where you want to go with this or where you are, how you want to be able to overcome whatever trauma that you've been exposed to. I'm going to be patient with you. I'm going to be patient to where you know that I'm here for you. I'm not rushing you. But whenever you're ready to move forward, whenever you're ready to disclose and open up and share, I'm here. So I'm big on showing patience, empathy, sympathy, and respect. I don't focus on forcing or pressuring my clients to open up, because I know at some point they will. So I meet them where they are. Just say, for instance, scenario, I have clients come in and do a one-on-one session. If they're not ready to talk about a certain topic or life experience, okay, what do you want to talk about? So I give them the opportunity to talk about it. But when it comes to wanting an individual to overcome their issues or traumatic events, you can't force it out of them. They got to be willing to do it. But just allowing them the opportunity to have that opportunity to feel that you there, you care, you're showing patience, and you're being patient, that allowed them to think about it when they come back for the next session.
Go ahead.
So you giving them that opportunity to figure out what they want to do in terms of moving forward. Because you got to keep it in mind, like you can't force them to change. They got to want to change, and they got to want to be able to be helped.
It's a fascinating topic. It's it's all about human relations, and we all are involved in we could be involved in helping. We've all been wounded and and traumatized, and we all need to be healed, and so I wanted to talk about when you're talking to a guy and he's telling you stuff, and the issue of good follow-up questions based on what the guy just said. You're going along, you're having conversation, you have knowledge about the guy, you sort of have some questions in mind about what he's going to say, But the thing is, he just, as he's talking, especially if it's new material, how do you to me, the ability to ask really good follow-up questions is crucial, and that itself is a real, that's a real talent. So, do you want to talk about that issue of listening, being a good listener, and asking good follow-up questions?
Because being an active and a reflective listener, it shows the client like you listening to him, you paying attention, you got focus, you focus on him or her at that moment of like whatever they want to talk about, whatever they are talking about, and you be able to recite what they say, you be able to recall what they say, you be able to say, if this is what you're talking about, or this is how I relate to you, being able to recite what they say, reframe what they say, paraphrase what they say, but making sure that it sticks to what they're asking or what they're talking about in the beginning. So you always want to be able to recite, paraphrase, or be more on point of what they're asking or what they're talking about or what they're sharing and disclosing. Because once you can recite what they share with you, that's going to hit home with them. Oh, he listening to me. Oh, he have empathy. He has sympathy. He's showing respect. He's being patient with me. He's not taking over their session. So and then as a follow-up question, I would ask, am I hearing you right? Is this what you're saying? Is this what you're trying to communicate? So those are the questions that I do as a follow-up, just so I can make sure that I'm in the session based on meeting the clients where they are and understanding where they are.
I've had a lot of experience myself with the mental health field, and the thing I've realized, or I remember, is they were all different, and but a fair number of them, you could tell they didn't care. They were kind of cold, and or they even looked down. When you look down on, and people do this all the time, there's a sense of people sort of enjoy power, or they enjoy a sense of superiority. And when you're doing that, so I believe you've done a lot of. We had a nice talk this afternoon. So based on that and what this talk now, I'm sure you've done a lot of good work, because I can see you have that respect, and you put this in your resume about being compassionate, that you care. And so it's so empowering when you care about people. And do you want to talk about that issue of the importance of respect, for clients and caring about them, being compassionate?
Like in terms of being compassionate, respectful, and caring, because you got to keep in mind, like, we don't know the walks of life when the clients come to us until we do our investigation or we do our assessments, and to get an idea of where the clients may be or where they're coming from. So you can't assume that all clients are the same, So I keep myself grounded, the principles of life, showing respect, giving respect, being compassionate, showing love, showing affection. That resonate, and that goes a long way. And I'm big on vibes, and energy, and clients pick up on that. So if your demeanor and your presence is golden or gloomy, clients can decipher that. They can pick up on that energy. So what I always try to do, my first interaction with a client, is to greet them. Hey, how you doing? I'm here for you. Thanks for coming in. Whatever you want to talk about is your opportunity to talk about. I'm not going to overtake the session. I'm going to give it to you, and I'm just going to follow your lead and your guide, but you have my full undivided attention. And being respectful and compassionate is like, giving them the opportunity to feel a sense of care, sense of love, and sense of belonging. So I always go into a session, getting to know a client before I even try to get into any kind of intervention or prevention. My focus is getting to know the client where they are, and a lot of times clients come with that persona, with the shield, and my aim is to allow them to feel comfortable so that guard can come down. And once they come down and they see that, they can open up and they can share, and then you open up a pot of gold. Per se, you open up a pot of gold, and now you pick and choose which way you want to go after they give you the lead way. So compassion is the number one thing, respect is the number one thing, and having empathy and being able to sympathize, with an individual makes a whole lot of difference too.
I've been a high school history teacher, and I've heard a saying. They said students don't care aren't that interested in knowing about how much you know, but knowing how much you care. Now, tonight's guest has been Coach Bobby Hallback, who is a mental health therapist and a sports psychology consultant. Coach Hallback, we're out of time. Do you have any final words for our listeners?
Well, I just want to say that thanks for the opportunity, and if there's any need or concerns, you can reach out to me. I'm available. Just stay positive the best way you can, and once again, I'm here for you. You can reach me at Bobby Hallback at gmail.com, or Bobby Hallback on my Instagram account, or Bobby Hallback at Facebook.
Well, thank you so much, Coach Bobby Hallback, for a wonderful interview tonight. This was a wonderful thing, and certainly an extremely important topic. Thanks again.
Thank you, and I appreciate your time, Mr. Pete.
And keep up the good work. Next week on American Sports History, we will have Josh Martin, an NBA insider. Dear listener, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.